Well, guys, tonight I'm actually talking to a person in like real time, which is a neat thing for me. We got Tyson Dang for Red Handed Denial. This is a band I found through the live streams and stuff, and blew me away right off the bat. And they were funny too, which I love a band that's funny and good. Well, I can't remember the name of the song, but where you're all doing the Nerf fighting and all that stuff.
Oh, Marked with the Curse. Yeah.
Marked with the Curse, yeah.
That was such a silly one.
Funny. That was fun. There's like one I talked about was when in the video, like everybody was taking their sunglasses off and you like acted like you took yours off, but you didn't have any on. So, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let's say I didn't do my research and didn't know anything about Red Handed Denial. What should I know about you?
Right off the bat, I always tell people we are an accessible metal band. So we are a metal band that a lot of people, and I know a lot of people that don't listen to metal, they don't. As soon as they hear a scream, they're like, nope, I'm done. And then I tell people, no, but like, listen to the first chorus at least, because there's always some beauty there. So I tell people we are an accessible metal band that people that don't like metal probably would. People tell us we're a combination of like, if I have to name a few bands, there's like Protest the Hero, some Periphery going on. People are also saying like Paramore, the 3 Ps, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
I get that too, man. It's really cool. You get those nice singy, songy kind of moments that are very memorable and very slick, but then you get this super fucking heavy,
super brutal, like where is this coming from?
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Your new song Parasite was like that too, man. It was great.
Thank you. Parasite was a lot of fun to write. It was, well, Chris, who is like our like dominant writer, he's the guitarist as well. He came up with a lot of these riffs for the demo version, and we took it to studio. And I think the song just got redid in studio.
Wow.
Yeah, and it just became something so heavy. And I remember this was done in studio in Michigan, and at that time I hadn't made it over yet. I was still at home. So they're like, "Hey Tyson, we kind of dissected the song. Here's what it sounds like." And it was like this. And yeah. I remember I first listened to it off my phone and I was just laughing in the living room. I was like, what is this? Because that first verse that comes in and it's just like so chaotic for that first verse. And I'm like, what is this? What are these noises?
Like sliding around on the guitar and everything.
Yeah, I was dying of laughter. It was so funny.
That's awesome.
But it was great.
So how does what I imagine there's going to be differences, but how is there like a general way a song kind of comes together with the band? Are you guys all together, or you got to kind of do stuff separate? I mean, a lot of people do remote recording and stuff.
Now it's remote. Everyone's doing it from their own home, and especially because Lauren, our singer, she's actually in the U.S. now. The three of us are in Canada. She's in the U.S.
Oh, okay. And
we've kind of restructured the way we approached songwriting, especially during pandemic, just because we physically weren't able to be together in the same rooms, bouncing the same ideas. And I think it worked out because it was just, I mean, we have the technical know-hows. We know how to send files. We know how to record to the quality that we're able to understand each other, using Guitar Pros or using just like straight audio, like DAWs and recording stuff. Yeah. Chris is the main writer though. He writes a lot of the riffs and ideas like stem from his brain, and we kind of just work off of it.
Does he do like a kind of a drum track thing, program drums for you, just give an idea so everybody can kind of hear the song?
Yeah, often when he writes the stuff, he'll also toss in like a skeleton drum.
Sure.
Like a basic, like just so we understand, okay, we want this part to be faster, we want this one slower. Maybe a sort of a punk beat happening here, just to get an idea. And then I'll take that. So if I like his idea, I was like, yeah, we'll just keep that because it's already cool. And otherwise I will, spice it up a little with some fills, or if I have my own ideas with certain accents, I'll be like, oh, what if we did this? And, the little drummer brain applied on top of it.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah.
I think, man, a lot of people and businesses, right? Pandemic hit and everybody's like, oh, you gotta stay home. And everybody's like, well, we can kind of do a lot of shit from home.
Yeah.
As much as fun as it is to get together, I mean, if it was something that was difficult, and all of a sudden, if a band can openly share ideas and stuff, and figure out a way to work like that, especially now it's so easy to record something.
Yeah, a lot of it's so accessible now to like all the devices given to you, and like if you don't know how to do something, just search up any 10 YouTube videos or like the first 3 Google links or like the search results, and you could just figure it all out so easily.
Yeah, I've done collaboration with doing covers and stuff, and record my track and send it off. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good enough.
It's good enough, yeah. If not, on your end, you could like spruce it up.
Sure. Let's see. Is this album anything different, or I mean, just kind of a progression, or anything we should be kind of looking out for from what you guys put out before?
So, when we wrote the previous album, it was I'd Rather Be Asleep. I think that came out 2022, and that one was actually written. That was one that was supposed to be recorded and finished during pandemic time, but of course we couldn't, because once again we were recording in Michigan, and because of the border closures we had to go back home and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so a few of the songs actually got written and rewritten over and over again, just because we had more time to sit with it.
Right.
And what had happened was, out of the entire album writing process, one song in particular came out, which was our lead single, which was called Father Said. That one came out, and I was like, okay, we're onto something here. Like, we really resonated with that song the most when we were writing it.
Yeah.
And after the release, we were like, oh, okay, this is still probably one of our favorite songs right now. It's just the way that it's like, it's got its really heavy moments, it's got its beautiful moments, it's all like tied together with a lot of electronic components as well. It's a little more modern sounding. It's got its riffs, but it's not too complex that like the average listener can understand upon first listen.
Right. Okay.
And so we kind of took that idea of Father Said and just applied it to the songwriting for this upcoming album. We were like, all right, let's do Father Said again, but let's do it. Let's expand on the idea, basically.
You think so? That album kind of you think it turned out differently since you had that extra time to kind of hear things and be like, oh, we could do this, we could do that, since you had more time with it?
I think so. We definitely had a lot more time to stew with the ideas for the previous album, at least, just because of the time it took. And I think, to my memory, there was actually one song that we were planning to do in studio, but because we couldn't, later on we were like, maybe this one doesn't work anymore. So we actually just cut it off the album completely.
Oh. Yeah.
Some parts had, I think 2 of the songs had like restructures, but it all came out for the better, I think. This upcoming album is going to be really different just because we were very focused when we were writing and recording. We were all in the studio for a month, just nonstop. Like, we wake up, we're in the studio, we're in it until the nighttime kind of thing.
Wow.
Keeps us really focused.
So a lot of writing on your own, sending off files and getting mixes, and so you get everything kind of locked in, right? And then you head to the studio, where you should know exactly what you're going to do, and then you go in there and just record it, right?
Yeah, for the most part. But even when we're in the studio, Lee, our producer, he also just had so many different ideas as well, and it really added on top of it, because he would listen to the songs and be like, oh, like, what if this was extended, or oh, what if we cut this, or how about we switch like this chord? Even certain small things make such a big difference in a song. It's like, it's insane. Just when you get like an external ear after the process.
Yeah.
Because you could write a song and you could like fall in love with what you've written, and it's like your baby that you've held on to for a while.
Yeah.
But then you'll get this external ear coming in at the next process or the next step, and suddenly you're like, whoa, like, I've never thought. It's like a profound moment where you're just like, oh, I didn't think about that.
Isn't that? I've been there, and sometimes it's difficult to be like, yeah, but it's this way. But if something really strikes you, it's like, yeah, that's just better. That's just better. I mean, you should just do it, right?
Yeah. I know previously with RHG, or at least even with me, on previous albums, it was always like, oh, but I like this. Let's just do this. But this time around, it was nicer this time around because I think all of us generally just approached it with a more open-minded aspect, and so it allowed for a lot of creativity, a lot of freedom, a lot of like different directions, and a lot of what ifs that, you know, a lot of time to think of different ideas and even just debate the ideas sometimes.
I like hearing that.
Yeah, songwriting, it's so much fun.
How long have you guys been together?
The band itself has been around since 2008, I believe, or 2009.
Okay.
I joined later, so I'm actually the second drummer. I joined in 2011, so a little later after that.
Still got some time in there.
Yeah. It's crazy. You look back and like, wow, we've been in this for, what was it, like 10 years, 12, 13 years?
And the cool thing is when you listen to songs, it's not like, oh, this is old. Like I don't know if it's just recent enough to where almost everything sounds kind of modern. You know, there's like, you go back far enough, stuff just sounds different. It was recorded differently.
Yeah.
It might just be within that time frame to where it's just not going to sound that different. You can tell there's, you know, an evolution to certain aspects of it, but
yeah, like a lot of metal songs that are released in 2008, 9, 10, they have like a very specific type of mix.
Yeah.
And even structurally sometimes, like a lot of songs will have like, I don't know, different types of breakdowns or different vocal layers, different shouting.
Sure. Yeah. The harsh vocals are kind of, that'd be neat to look back and see like when, because even like Sepultura, like years and years ago, it's just a different way of doing it. Like I think people used to just blow out their vocal cords doing it.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And then people learned how to do it without doing that, so you get this kind of change,
right?
More control and stuff.
They learned that they're like, oh, you mean I could do this without needing to, go to the hospital?
Without being mute at the end of the tour.
Yeah. And like, wait a minute, I could like increase my longevity with my screams.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and that's something I've always wanted to be able to do. And I used to do, I was doing it incorrectly. And it's called a video. I can't remember the name of the guy. He just went through and he's like, when you make noises like and when your voice cracks and goes between those two voices, that's what you want to kind of push.
Oh, okay.
And I'm in my car and I'm like, oh, holy shit, I'm kind of doing it.
Nice,
so now I'm like,
nice.
I want to get time to do it, but I need to learn something else at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a video I remember seeing. I think it was what was one of the talk show hosts? I think it might have been James Corden or Jimmy Kimmel or something like that. Jimmy Fallon. They were driving. And it was Linkin Park was in the car. So this was, Chester was still around and he was teaching someone else in the vehicle how to do screams.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was like a really quick lesson, but like whoever it was that he was teaching in the passenger seat just got it.
That's
and when
nuts,
the car was
man.
like, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You play in a metal band, but you like other types of music, don't you?
I do.
Lots of types of music? You like, or you just like K-pop?
If a song is good, a song is good. I've definitely heard country songs that I've really just, I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it. There's so many pop songs. Like I love listening to like Ariana Grande. Like I listen to Drake. But yes, a lot of K-pop these days. A lot of K-pop and J-rock are like the foundations of my daily life, I think.
That's fun, man. When like I see, checked out on your Twitch, you do live streams, you play along to songs. Is there anything, or is it just the song playing and you're just playing kind of on top of it, or what's your process with doing that?
It's like, I think maybe about 70 to 80% of the songs that are requested, I actually have no idea what songs they are.
Okay.
But so I'm listening to them for the first time and just doing it live. I know that there are some streamers that do like a live live learn, I think. So they'll listen to it
like a Drumeo session type.
kind of like they'll mute it off stream. They'll listen to it themselves and be like, okay, here we go. Let's try it. But I'm like, no, let's just hop straight into it. I want to see how it goes.
That's cool.
There's a lot more space for surprises, which is really fun.
Yeah.
And
it's fun when you're trying to see when it's going to stop or when something's going to drop or whatever.
It's always fun. It's fun to like, because you listen to it for the first the first repetition and you're like, okay, this kind of makes sense. And you're playing and then you're like, I feel like there's a pre-chorus coming up. So you're like, you want to switch to something. And if you're wrong, then you're wrong. But if you're right, then it's like, oh yeah. It's like very satisfying. Yeah.
Gives people, oh, you've heard this before. Like,
Man,
I'm a musician.
I've definitely had that too. Like it was on my YouTube channel actually, because a lot of my streams, I'll just like upload songs that I enjoyed playing. Mm-hmm. I would put that on my YouTube as a clip. And there was a Sleep Token one that I put up. And this is when the album, their latest album, Take Me Back to Eden, had just dropped. And we were like, okay, because I'm a big Sleep Token fan, we listened to it all on stream, front to back.
Oh, wow.
And we got to one particular song. I did it. And it was like, I think just a few weeks ago, someone commented on that video and was like, there's no way you learned this. Like you did this the first time. Like, look at the way that you stop and everything. This is fake. This is cringe. I'm like, yeah, thank you. Thank you that you think that way.
Right. I mean, you're a fan of the band. You know the style.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think when you listen to enough music generally, like you kind of have an idea of like, structures and how things usually go for songs and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. And even there'll be times where, obviously I'm a big BAND-MAID fan. The first time you hear them, there's stuff that you're like, what? Mm-hmm. That's so weird. And then you listen to them after, a year or so, you're like, okay, they got the things they do. They're still fun, but there's certain ways of Kenney plays that you learn to appreciate.
Yeah. It's like something that's so unique. Something that's so unique, and you're like, huh. And you're like, I don't get that, but okay. Yeah. And then you listen to it later, like maybe a month later, you listen to it again, you're like, oh, that makes sense now, just because now it's like within the context, I guess, of the band itself, or even just this other songs that you've listened to over time since then. Yeah,
and like there's the whole, like when you come back off the bridge and you don't come in on the first measure, you come in on the second. Like it's a pretty popular thing to do with J-Rock, which is super fun, man.
Always.
But sometimes they'll do it a beat later. I love that when it's just wrong. It's like, oh, that got me. Damn it. But it's so fun.
You do the like you're listening to it in public and you do that like false headbang and you're just like, oh,
yeah,
making sure no one sees that you.
Yeah, he's just me like live and I just do it wrong on video.
Whatever. Still having a good time.
Oh hell yeah, man.
So I know that on your streams there's a lot of J-Rock going on.
Yeah, for sure. That's what it's turned into. I wouldn't say exclusively, but yeah, a good 90% of it is. That's something that I started doing. I watched a lot of people do reaction videos. I'm like, all right, that looks cool. I could talk about music, I'm a musician for a while. I could do that. So I started with a couple with like Metallica and then a Nine Inch Nails or like a Johnny Cash Hurt, and which I was familiar with, but I had never watched the videos. They went nowhere. And then somebody suggested Nightwish. Ooh. And then if you know anything about them, if you do a Nightwish video, they'll come at you.
They'll flock.
Yeah. And from the first one, somebody suggested, there's Baby Metal and BAND-MAID. And the second one, there's another BAND-MAID. So I picked that. And then I was done for, dude. It was like, this is amazing. And then that led me to literally just hundreds of new bands. It showed me how closed off I was musically to the world. It was almost like, oh my god.
So up until where we are today, BAND-MAID is like kind of the first J-Rock like introduction for yourself.
Yeah, I think the first one I really checked out was because Baby Metal was one of the first ones, and I had heard of them, which is the case because they got popular with Rob Zombie and playing with some metal bands and stuff. Right. That's one of the first videos I did, and it got blocked. So I'm like, yeah. Oh. And I was super unfamiliar with the whole thing. I'm like, oh my god, I'm never touching them again. And then I went to BAND-MAID, and it was a lot more a lot more my speed because it was up, it was a band playing everything, and it was just unreal. It was just so freaking good, man. Mm-hmm. That's what got me to just look deeper and deeper into it. And I was stuck. Well, I was pretty much listening to Alice in Chains, Jerry Cantrell, Faith No More, and like Metallica, and then dipping into thrash here and there and stuff. But I was just that's what I was listening to all the time. Right. And now I hardly listen to it at all.
Oh, really?
It's so slow and like dark, and I'm used to listening to a lot more upbeat stuff, and the message is usually a pretty positive message.
Right.
I throw on Alice in Chains, I'm like, oh man. It's good, but it's so depressing.
Oh man. Yeah, it's great. There's like a world of music out there. It's insane. Like every single country and culture has their own versions of like rock or metal or just like something of a like a heavy variety. It's so unique, and like a lot of them, even with J-rock, there's a lot of like hints of their own culture within the writing, because I think if I remember correctly, they run off a different like chord structure or a note structure.
They have their own kind of standards. The way we have, our standards, there's like a different standard over there to where if you're unfamiliar with it, it's like it's fresh and new. They start listening more like, okay, now I get it. This is kind of what they do. This is their 1-4-5,
Right.
or whatever. So with you, what's kind of your musical history? What got you playing drums, or is that what you started out with, playing drums? Or was there any other instruments?
I did start off playing drums. I think much like every other Asian kid that grew up, it was always the parents saying, hey, learn piano.
Right.
And I was like, sure, but I don't know. But I actually never ended up doing piano. There was a piano at the house, and I think it was just like, like one of those electronic keyboards or whatever. And mom and dad would occasionally just kind of like, you want to like hint at it. My dad played guitar at home, so I always had an interest in that as well. So I do play some guitar, cool. But more just like chords and like the simple stuff. Drums never really crossed my mind until I was in maybe grade school, like whatever, like 6, 7, 8, like those years, grade 6, 7, 8. In music class, there was a drum kit at the corner, and every time I always looked at him like, I wonder if I could like, it looked interesting, right? Because it's like so many. You're used to an instrument that is just one self-contained piece or an item, but drums, it's like just a whole bunch of arms and pieces, and just it's a mess, really. And I always wanted to try it, but my music teacher at the time said I couldn't because I wasn't part of any like official band at the school, kind of like a marching band or like orchestras or whatever. And I was like, oh, whatever. So I actually didn't touch my first drum kit until high school, when I learned that the music room was open during lunch hour, and they're just like, if no one's on it, feel free to hop on and play. And nice. I did it. I tried it for my very first time, and surprisingly enough, I was able to actually play something like something that didn't sound like a complete mess, like when you're just kind of hopping on for the first time. I had the movements going, and my friends were like, oh shit, maybe there's something going on. Decided to pursue that some more.
Did you ever try and play along with drums on songs, like just with your on your legs or whatever? Did you kind of figure stuff out before you got on a set?
I did. So it was actually, I think the three main things that I would listen to and just pretend to play to were some Blink-182.
Okay.
I think there was some My Chemical Romance going on at the same time, and a J-rock band actually called Asian Kung Fu Generation, AKFG.
I've heard them.
Yeah.
What do you remember what song it was that where everything kind of clicked for you?
The one that everything clicked? It might have been probably that Asian Kung Fu Generation song. It's from the Naruto theme song.
Okay.
I think it's called like Haruka Kanata or something like that.
Wow.
Haruka Kanata. And at that time I was like watching, Naruto all the time. I like
Yeah.
loved it, and that theme song came out, and like the world exploded. And like they're like huge and popular, but that song was definitely one that like stuck out, and I was like, I want to try to learn this, and it was a very easy like do 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 that kind of beat. So it was very easy to like understand it. The fills took a bit of trouble, but after that you just kind of get used to it. Yeah.
Awesome, man. I think I play some like a little bit, enough to where I can do some simple stuff and make some tracks, but I think it was a Sugar Ray song.
Nice.
Like off their first album when they were like still creative and like kind of hardcore before they went all radio and made a bunch of money. Can't remember what song it was, but I was at a job, at a graphic art job, and I was like listening to this and I was playing along with it. I'm like, oh, now I like it kind of, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay. This is how this works.
This is how music is.
Yeah, it's fun. But then it's kind of like, that's just a little tip of it when you can play a 4/4 beat or whatever. It's like piano. You can learn a couple things on piano, but like, oh, this is how you play piano. And then you try and learn something, you're like, oh, that's a little bit of how you can play piano. Same with drums, guitar, kind of everything. It's neat when you get those first moments of clarity. You're like, oh shit, that's how it works.
Right.
But then you just never stop learning, right?
You never stop learning. That's like a rabbit hole. Like it's like a similar rabbit hole, I guess, of when you find out, you're like, you find this new artist that you enjoy, and you start diving into their discography, and then similar artists and recommendations. And
yeah, dude, I just learned about Ben Kenney.
Ben Kenney.
You familiar with him?
I don't think I am.
He played guitar for the Roots, and his last thing he did was he played bass for Incubus.
Okay.
And that's what I knew of him, was he played bass for Incubus, right? And then somebody's like, hey, check this out. It's Ben Kenney doing an original song where he plays everything. And he's got 4 videos, and he's singing different parts of the song in different. Like, you have your 4 screens, and the first verse will sing it in this one, then the second verse will sing it in this one. I'm like, trying to, like, dude, when you're recording that, you have to sing the first verse and then play the rest of the song, and then when you're redoing it with the second guitar, you got to sing just the second verse. And it was incredible, and every part was amazing. I'm like, dude, this guy's a fucking genius.
Ben Kenney, huh?
Yeah, and he apparently he was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and he left Incubus because he had surgery. He's been in recovery, but he's got, a couple albums, I think, of solo stuff. And it's like, wish I would have known about this dude before, incredible voice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's, I just knew him as he played bass for Incubus.
Wow. Bass for Incubus and guitar for Roots. It's 2 things, but it's quite the track record already.
Right. Yeah, it's already pretty good. But then I remember when he joined Incubus, everybody in the band is like, oh, having him in the band it's a huge, it's a huge leap forward. And I'm like, all right, this must be a really good bass player. It's like, no, the dude can play anything. Now I get why it's such a big deal. Yeah.
What else have you been listening to these days?
Man, there's so much stuff. What keeps coming up regularly for me, other than BAND-MAID, it was Spirit Box, which I really dig.
Spirit Box is great. Excellent writing.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Because I try and write stuff down and then look back at it and be like, yeah, you wrote this down 3 or 4 times. You should probably go listen to it.
Oh.
Polka Dot Stingray, Walking After You is one I just heard recently. A really cool band. It's a Korean band, kind of punk-ish with a little bit with like a punkish music, but with a little bit of a hardcore edge to it. Really cool. Not like Lucid Dream. Gordon's a really cool band. This is like an old list, but Trico, Trident, I don't know.
All the good stuff. Yeah, I got my Spotify pulled up too. I'm like, what have I been listening to? What if I'm asked that question?
Today I was listening to The Warning.
The Warning.
That's a nice thing that the family can listen to without. They aren't too keen on all the Japanese music I like to listen to. Yeah, some other ones I got to mention. Drag Down is one I found recently. This is freaking awesome, dude.
Drag Down.
Out of Tokyo. Two two main members. They've had the same bass player like playing bass with them for a while, but man, so freaking heavy. Aikoku does the vocals, and she has one of the best harsh vocals I've ever heard.
Nice.
And Gungure is another one. I don't know if you heard of them or Fake Gear.
Fake Gear, I think I've heard.
She sings for Fake Gear also. Nana
Nice.
is her name. But it's just hardcore. I listen to more heavy stuff now than I ever did. Usually people get older and they kind of mellow out. I'm like listening to more like metalcore now.
You need that adrenaline, you know, that's
It's so fun.
you need to bring it back.
Yeah. And my other friends who used to listen to heavy stuff, now they're all like listening to country and shit. I'm like, guys, come on, dude. If we're gonna hang out,
Yeah, if you guys are having like a party in the backyard and you guys are sharing music, it's all like mellow during the barbecues, and then you're like, oh, here we go, guys.
yeah, there's some cool mellower stuff. Chilled Spot, Chili Beans, Mukyu is one of my favorites. Really mellow stuff, but it's so fun to listen to.
Nice. I've been listening to some stuff. Some of the, specifically the Japanese stuff, is like Tota, Tota. That's a great one.
Yeah,
Yoroshika is another one.
I've heard them. I like them.
They're great. Really pleasant female lead. You have some punk songs, but the ones that are like more chilled songs are very, very, very pleasant. Very nice to listen to while you're driving.
When I was young, you'd have your rock stars, and they were the best there was, and there just wasn't that many people that were any good or could even touch them.
Yeah.
And now we know that, no, man, there's millions of brilliant musicians and singers and you know, guitarists, just everything. And it's just a matter of now they can be heard as opposed to knowing the right guy to get heard. You know, when everybody has access, you still kind of fall into the same thing where you still need to know somebody to get heard. But if you look for it, man, there's no shortage of music to listen to.
Oh my gosh, yeah, there's so many out there now. And there are people that just have, you know, one or two songs out. Like they're on Spotify, but they just have like one song or two songs, and it's like it's doing well. And even if it's not doing well, if someone stumbles across it, it could be like a gem of a song.
Yeah,
that just deserves more attention.
What hobbies? What else do you like to do? You don't just play drums, do you?
That's it. When I'm not playing drums, I'm sleeping.
Man, no wonder you're
what
so
a
good.
life! What a life! What else do I do? I also enjoy a lot of writing as well, which I actually haven't been doing recently. But it's nice to just write, whether it's like short stories, or if it's like editorials, or just thoughts, ideas, poems,
That's
songs.
really cool, man.
Yeah, writing is really fun.
I've done some writing.
Yeah. I feel like there's always so many words and just things stuck in our head. It's always nice to just clear it out a little bit, just put it on paper or type it out, you know, look back at it as a reflection of like that moment of time.
I had a big story in my head, and I got about 120 pages in, and then, you know, life happens, and job situation, like I had a job where I could like jot stuff down, and it was just kind of changed, and I couldn't do it, and then I just got away from it, and then from that I got like a short story that was like complete in itself, like it was a part of the bigger one, but it works on its own. You know, I just thought I'd do something with that. Haven't really, but it's there. I read it on my live stream. People seem to like it, so you know.
Oh really? Oh nice.
But it's fun. So when you write, is it kind of varied what you like to write about, or if you have like a certain kind of fantasy or just fiction or science fiction or anything you like to?
It's a lot of the writing is like something maybe that I dreamt of the night before, and I woke up and I'm like, oh, this has to be like put down somewhere.
Yeah.
Or it'll just be like just really random situations that I can like, you know, fictionalize just a little bit more. Like walking down the street, you see this odd thing happen across the street, and you're like, I bet there's a story behind that. And you just kind of like sit down and just be like, all right, what are these characters doing? What led up to this situation? What's the aftermath?
That's cool.
It's fun.
I think that too. Like you see something where it's just like, that's kind of weird. And you think, well, like, I think that's just what you're talking about. Like, well, what if this just super random thing happened and then you just had to try to explain it? And then you come up with the reason for it, or, it leads you to
exactly. No, I was gonna go on with this whole idea of like people watching, because like even people watching is like just sitting down at a park and it's all peaceful, and you notice like you just see so many people living their lives, and you're just kind of wondering like, what is this person? What's their personality? What are they like at home? How do they treat in this situation? How do they react? Kind of thing. And it's just so weird to think about that stuff.
When I'm on a long road trip, we went to New Orleans last weekend. Spent a few days there, and it was like a 14-hour drive. And you're driving along, and you may not see, but there's people all around you. And sometimes like if you're not driving, you'll look at somebody and actually look at somebody in the car next to you. And then it kind of weird thing. It's like, man, maybe they have some huge situation they're in right now, and they're just trying to get through it. Right. And, they have no idea anybody's even looking at them, wondering what they're doing, which is kind of shit, maybe somebody looked at me and wondered what I was doing.
Yeah, right? It's so crazy.
Yeah.
And then I remember this thing I read, which makes so much sense after I read it. I think it's called like the spotlight effect, where you think that so many people are actually looking at you. Like if you have a stain on your shirt and you're walking around, the entire time you're thinking, oh, I have a stain on my shirt, people are gonna notice it, people are gonna judge me.
Yeah.
And I think that's called the spotlight effect. But what they don't know is that everyone is too busy thinking about their own
stain
things to notice your stain.
Yeah.
And I was like, that makes so much sense, because it's like to put things into perspective. It's like at the end of the day, like it's not as bad as you think it is, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you think about something all day, like it's bothering you, and like, oh, these stupid pants don't fit right, and then at the end of the day, you realize nobody said a fucking word about it because nobody cares.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
It just wasn't an issue. You're like, oh man, I spent a lot of time thinking about this. I could have just spent.
I was late for work today because I was too busy selecting my pants, and it didn't matter.
Right. Nobody cared.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that even applies to the music too, where it's just like people would spend so much time, like bringing it back to music, people would spend so much time like trying to write a song, but they are too afraid to like progress further with it, or even to release it, just because of like fear of what other people think. But it's like, I don't know, I think that when you listen to a song, I don't think that you often take what the artist had in mind first, but you're rather just letting the song, you're trying to relate to its experience rather than like the actual artist's experience, I guess.
Well, man, that's like a lot of hang up a lot of people have. I try and introduce them to all these amazing bands that I know they're playing music that I know this guy loves. Check this out. And they're like, that's cool. It's in Japanese. I'm like, you can't understand the lyrics of the song you're listening to that's in English. Why do you care?
Right.
But I'm more open to kind of what you're saying. I wanted to know what everything is being said. I went lyric sheets, and so I could look at it, open up the tape, the fold out and the tape cassette thing, and then I started listening to music from around the world, just hearing it that first time and really feeling it. Luckily, it's so good that the feeling you get is usually kind of, reiterated in the lyrics. Sometimes the only thing, usually what happens though, is if it's like a chill kind of laid back beat, the lyrics will be fucking dark, like sad, a little depressing. It's like, oh shit, that's not
exactly.
It wasn't exactly what I thought it was. Yeah, it's neat to be able to just kind of listen to it and then appreciate it for the musicianship of it. And then you look at the lyrics, and you got to find a good translation,
right?
And then sometimes you realize that, man, there, a lot of the bands utilize English and Japanese, and they'll even, Miku from BAND-MAID especially, because I'm super familiar with it, is she'll do like layered puns because of the language and how certain words sound the same or similar, or a couple English words will sound like a Japanese word.
Right.
And, you know, you're never going to catch that unless somebody's like, hey, look at this, you know?
Right.
It's like, man, it's so much more going on than.
Yeah. But until you look at the lyrics, it's more just about like the melodies and how it like was used in the song.
Yeah.
Because even that in itself, there's like a lot of emotion involved and like a lot of, I guess, storytelling to why they chose those notes.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't know about you, but if I get into a band, I really what they're doing. I go to write a song. I'm like, God, dude, I'm simple. Like I'm a blues guy basically, so my style of writing is pretty fucking simple. And it's like, oh, I should be doing more stuff and this and that. And it's like, no, you still like hearing simple music, but you also like this other music, you know.
Exactly. I don't think there's anything just simple music. It's just music that better reflects how you're feeling while you're writing it, I guess.
Yeah.
Because there are so many songs out there, like, you know, like we were talking about, like chill songs that probably didn't take much forethought in terms of like progression or structures. And they're just like, it's the most simplest thing, but it just works because of how it's all put together at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's for sure some stuff I like because it's complicated and goes all over the place. And there's some stuff that it's just got the perfect riff that you want to hear over and over and over.
Exactly, yeah. Or like that catchy, whatever, that catchy little melodic hook or something. You're like, oh, that's neat.
Yeah. Music's great.
Yeah. We love music.
We do love music. Well, let me hear some. I don't listen to K-pop at all. I haven't had anybody like, hey, listen to this. So what are some bands I should check out?
Now, if we're going K-pop, are we going like the full like poppy route?
I gotta check out something. Like... I don't know. It's going to be out of my wheelhouse, but I'm willing to check it out. What is it that drew you to that? Just kind of, because I know even what would be like mainstream is still pretty musically profound, like, you know, just super well produced and well written.
Mm-hmm. I think with a lot of the modern K-pop, it's really, I think I really enjoy the instrumental and the production value of the songs.
Okay.
Vocals is one thing. It's kind of, I think K-pop has kind of reached a point in the industry where it's a lot of it is cut and paste now, but the way that it's presented, you know, even if it's the same thing over and over again, the way that it's packaged, I think really makes it stand out. There's one group that I really enjoyed from the very beginning. It's called Loona, Loona.
Okay. And
they have a song which I swear it used to be in English as well. Like the title is spelled with Korean characters called Yeolgi, and it's two characters. But there you go. So in brackets, it's just the number 9.
Oh, okay.
Is funny to me. That one isn't as poppy. It's definitely more of like a vibey type of song.
Okay.
But then you have your nice energetic ones. A lot of the boy band ones are very energetic, I find. Like BTS or another group called like ATEEZ, ATEEZ or Z. It's they really focus on like the badass type of like drops in the courses, and a lot of the dance moves are really like very like intense, like all in type of dance moves, and that's really cool. It's crazy to know it because like I think even with some J-rock bands, well, like Baby Metal, for example, they do have like a bunch of choreography involved as well. Yeah,
like the idol groups, and
for sure
there's anti-idol groups, which are a little usually heavier. Passcode's one that
Passcode, yeah.
Well, I have a guy who has me listen to Passcode every week, and every week I'm like, I'm liking this more and more, man.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild stuff goes on.
I think one of my favorite, I think one of my favorite anti-idol groups, aside from Hanabi, obviously, but like Wagamama Rakia.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man.
When that showed up on my stream for the first time, I was like, all right, here we go. And then just started listening to more and more. I'm like, I see what they're doing.
It's fun when you hear a band and There's a lot of them. They got like this freaking screamer just waiting for the right moment.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is really nice. It's like, oh my god,
oh god, help me.
this is awesome.
I'm trying to think of like what other K-pops are there that I like to tell people about.
What was it? Sushi Mamire was another one that was really cool. I found recently. Atazome. That's the thing. I know I liked it. I highlighted it, but I can't remember what the hell it was. So I listened to 14 other songs that night.
Oh yeah. What I've been doing is at the end of my streams, because whenever like songs get requested, I don't know how it works on yours, but for me, when it gets requested, it goes onto Stream Elements, and then after I play a song, it like goes into like the history of songs.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll like at the end of the stream, sometimes I'll like, oh, there was a song I really liked. I would go back to the history, and then I would find that YouTube song, and I would either like save it to my watch later on YouTube, or I would listen to it on Spotify and like, or add it or something like that.
The wonderful mods that I know you appreciate your mods too for Discord and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Since I tried Stream Elements and it was just kind of a pain in the ass, so I just gave up on it. I just have them put in on my Discord. They put in requests, and I just go off of that. But then I do this thing where I have the sticky notes on Windows, like that. I just list everything out on there, so it's all retrievable.
Oh, I see.
Which I just realized. I'm like, I'm looking through my handwritten stuff. I just look at my sticky note right here. Scandal, Ivets.
Okay.
You know, just so many good bands.
There's a lot out there. Like, there's what's one that I've been listening to a lot? Scrolling down my list. Oh man, I can never pronounce this one because it's such a long name.
Hitsuji Bunkaku?
No.
That's a good one.
I thought it's a good one. Real Kushoku Shakai. And it's not even metal, it's just like a very positively upbeat J-rock kind of thing. Yeah.
Like Scandal or Trident or
kind of like that,
something like that.
Yeah. Or kind of like Yoasobi, kind of that type of vibe. A lot of J-pop too is really fun out there. There's one J-pop artist that I listen to called Wednesday Campanella.
Campanella, yeah, she's
I love the Campanella. Like I own like 2 of the albums physically. When I first heard an album like way back then, I was like, I need this. And then as soon as I landed Japan on whichever trip I did, I like went straight to the music store and I bought the CD first thing.
I think there's a video I watched where it was like a cinematic video. I think it was her, where it was like
it's like on the mountains. There's alpacas or something.
No, it was I think she was like a geisha, like in training and kind of end up rebelling against it or something. I think that was her.
Huh?
Oh, if it's not, I'll be disappointed. But I've heard at least one of her songs, and I was like, she kind of raps too, right?
Yes, okay. She does. Yeah.
And I was like, dude, this is freaking awesome.
It's great. And what it is, which I didn't know, it's actually like a DJ / producer, and the vocalist has been like the constant, I guess, or like the DJ / producer is the constant. But in the newest album, they actually like have a new vocalist.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but it's still the same vibes, which is always great.
So that's probably thinking of somebody else then, because I'm thinking it was like a singer. Everything's based around the singer, so
it is definitely like all the music videos are just based off of the singer.
Okay, right on.
I have a feeling I know which geisha one you're talking about.
Oh my gosh,
I'm in a searchy mood now.
I know. Maybe it's Kongo Rikishi Statues, I think. Is that it? I've watched it. Nope, that's not it. I don't know, man.
You know what? When whoever finds it first, we'll send it to each other on Discord.
Yep. We'll let you know. Whoever, one of my guys will watch this, be like, "Oh, dude, it was this."
It was this one, you idiot.
They always know.
It's been fun. There's a lot of K-pop things I could show you. Oh, there might be some K-metal out there. There's a band that I worked with called Mesgram.
Mesgram?
Messgram. They're kind of like, I guess they're like metalcore Korean.
Okay.
On one of their albums, I helped co-write with them, which was really fun. it was fun to like take the lyrics that they had and try to like make it fit, because they do a lot of Korean and English.
Okay.
And you know, their English is great, but I guess sometimes when they write it, what they write doesn't necessarily fit with the rest of the song, so you like have to maybe reword it, or they have to like enunciate different parts.
Okay.
Like split pronunciations, or like it's fun. So Mesgram is a great band. I always tell people about them.
Cool. I will check them out. There's been a couple Korean bands, and then there's another guy. There's one GDJYB is a
GDJYB.
I think from Hong Kong, and it's
Ooh.
very, very chill music, but their lyrical content is political and hits on a lot of touchy subjects.
Oh, interesting.
But when you listen to it, you're like, oh yeah, man. It's one of those where it's like, man, this is so chill, and you're like, oh man, that's talking about some serious shit.
2021 was their last release. It was a single, GDJYB. Their last album was 2016. Ooh. I wonder if they're still active.
Maybe not.
Maybe they got
you hear about these things, and you look it up, and like, oh shit. A lot of J-rock bands are like disbanded. They're had this member from this band went here and there, and there's a lot of crossover with them.
That's crazy. I hate when that happens. Like you really get into a band, and then you check it out, and you're like, oh, they disbanded like last month, and you're like, no.
Yeah, man. There's been there's a couple American bands where I'm like, oh, see, they got the same shit I've been looking for. It's like, no, they disbanded 20 years ago. It's like, damn it.
20 years ago.
What the hell, man?
There's one American band that I've been listening to that I've been a fan of them for a while, and they disbanded either earlier this year or like end of last year. And I'm so sad. It was a band called Issues, ISSUES.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been at it for a while. They're like metalcore-ish, but with like a lot of pop elements involved. They're a really fun band, but they went through a bit of stuff towards the end of their session. So now I think they're officially done now, which is kind of sad. But I think they're all on to other things.
Man, there's one I'm trying to think of. They had like something on Anchor or something in the name. Not The Anchor, that's a current band, which I really dig too. I can't think of what the hell it is. I know one I found which was just blew me away is He Is Legend. I don't know if you heard of them.
Ooh, yes I have.
God, that's freaking awesome. They're still playing.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, that's good. In Your Face, South Korean transcore band, self-described as a South Korean transcore band.
In Your Face? I know In Your Face.
Yeah?
I
just heard them recently. It's pretty cool.
Are they done too? Don't tell me they're done.
Ah, fuck, I don't know.
I think In Your Face had like, I was friends with one band in Korea, and I think the bassist, like that band broke up, and I think the bassist ended up in Your Face. It was a lot of like updates through Facebook, and I haven't been on Facebook for a while, so it's like
Kill Melt Land, Faulio. I need to go back and just listen to some of these bands again.
Talking about Rolling Quartz and how they cover various markets. There was one other band that had a similar thing. Let me try to find it. I know I have it somewhere. Snip out these moments that you and I are just searching.
Right. Maybe make it easier to watch.
Oh, I found it.
Man.
This one's called this band is called Rocket Girl, ROCKIT. Rocket Girl. Do you ever just riff on top of songs for most of streams? Just like, all right, this is a stream where I'm just gonna doodle.
Usually it's part of like another stream, and sometimes if a song I'm listening to just makes me want to play, I'll grab my guitar and kind of play in between parts. Nice. Or I've taken instrumental versions of songs or like BAND-MAID songs or whatever, and just kind of try and hit the vocal melodies, but then just play, across whatever's going on. Because it's way like if you look up backing tracks on YouTube, you get a lot of kind of basic shit.
Right.
Even if you look up jazz, it's somewhat basic. But if you play over like BAND-MAID or something like that, it's like, dude, you gotta pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, how difficult is it to play to a BAND-MAID song, like guitar-wise at least?
It's not too bad. because I find a lot of it is in like an Aeolian mode, I'm like sunk into what's Dorian mode, which is just kind of like what Hendrix played a lot in. And it's Aeolian is similar, it's shifted just a little bit off. So there's like two notes that are like, no, those don't work. So once I realized that, it's like, all right, I kind of see what's going on. Like, what's tricky about it is there's not a lot of space in it. Their songs are so dense that I don't even know how the vocals work over half their songs because they're so dense instrumentally. So when you try and add another guitar in there, you just gotta be really careful. So it makes you really listen and play like to the song instead of just playing around.
Oh, I see.
That's fun for me, like finding where everything fits. Like I'm kind of like you'd have to do with the drums. Like, well, there's too much shit going on here, or whatever. So you got to play around what's going on. It's pretty fun.
Or like let the rest of the song breathe instead of just showing off on top.
And what happens if I didn't practice it beforehand? I'll be learning how to play on it, and then I'm like, oh, there's the vocal line. I'll stumble on the vocal melody just because it's such a part of the song.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really fun.
One thing that really stuck out to me for a lot of J-Rock songs is their mixing and how they always have really great clarity with both the vocals and the bass.
Yes.
Yeah. There's one band particularly called Gesu Kiwami no Otome. I don't remember what it was, but a little bit more of like a rock funkier type of sound.
Yeah.
But their bass is like crystal clear and you could hear everything that they're playing and it works so well.
That's one thing that was wild to me was how here the bass is it's just a thing that's in the band.
Yeah, it's like an accent to the drums kind of thing.
And almost every band out of Japan, it's like it's integral to the sound of the band. Like the bass is super important.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude.
And it's always very busy too.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
The bass in Japanese like J-Rock songs are always so busy.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear think of Mear from BAND-MAID, then I hear other bands. I'm like, geez, man, how does this work? It's doing so much. But yeah, you hear like a chill song and the bass is going nuts.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, I'm going on tour next month.
Where are you playing?
When do we start? We start next week. Oh my gosh. No, 2 weeks from now. Oh my goodness. Where are we playing? I feel like we're all over the place this time. I
will find a schedule and include it. I'll put an overlay and cover up my face.
Cover both of our faces.
Let's get to what's important. Where are you playing?
Yeah. Let me try to find it here just because I don't remember it myself. All right, let me tell you the dates because because I'm Canadian, I have very terrible American geography. I don't know where any of the states are. I don't know names of cities, all that kind of stuff. So we're doing Chicago, April 4th.
Okay.
Cleveland on the 5th. After that, we're in Canada for 2 dates for Toronto and Montreal for 6 and 7. We're back in the US on the 9th for Philly, 10th, Boston. I'm excited for Philly, by the way, because one of my favorite shows is Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And I'm hoping that when I get there, I'll recognize spots in the show.
They like to call Philadelphia Killadelphia, right?
Do they now?
Yeah. It's I've been there once as for, of course, a BAND-MAID show, and didn't disappoint. And I was like, this is a place that I don't mind visiting today.
Nice.
But may not be back.
We've played in Philadelphia once back in 2015, I think, and we were still in terms of releases, we were still pretty baby band, but it was a fun time.
Yeah,
it was.
I did have a blast, man. We went out to some bar. It was supposed to be pretty close. We had to walk in 7-8 blocks away, and it was down the stairs into this place, and we were fine.
Yeah.
We had to basically help 2 of the guys back to the room from that bar. Walking back, because they were so freaking hammered, and it was I guess if we were going to get mugged, now'd be the time, and nothing happened. So, there's some dicey things like waiting in line for 6 hours. We saw some shit. But
oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, every city has really got their odd pockets of
sure,
of suspicious activity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember where we played, but it was like, I don't know. I think it might have been New York or something, but it was like a city just slightly outside of New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And sound check was going on. All the other bands were playing. Like, we're not playing until like, I think it was a headliner for us, or maybe the headliner for the other band that we were touring with. But anyways, while we were waiting outside, and we counted, every 5 minutes there was a police with sirens going by. And we were honestly trying to have conversations with people outside, but we're just like, oh man, cops. Blah, 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 blah. Oh man, cops. I'm like, wait a minute. This is happening way more often than we think. So then we started counting.
Back home, it's like, if there's a cop, it's like, oh, hey, there's cops. What's going on?
Yeah.
So when there wasn't sirens for a while, you're like, hey, there's no sirens. What's going on?
Is it oddly quiet on the street, or what's going on? Did the show stop? What? After Philly, what do we have after Philly? We got Boston. Yeah, April 10th. And then after, we're in New York City. And then we're in a place called Vienna. What's VA? Virginia?
Virginia.
Okay, so we're in Virginia. And then NC, which I think is North Carolina.
Yep.
After that, we're going to Orlando, Atlanta, Nashville.
Nice, man.
And then we're doing 3 in Texas, Dallas, Houston, and Austin. Going to Denver. SLC, I assume, is Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Boise, which I don't know where that is.
Idaho.
Okay, Idaho. Okay. Portland. Entering Canada again for Vancouver. And then leaving Canada to go to Seattle. Going to Sacramento. And then ending off in May with San Francisco, Fresno, LA, and Anaheim.
That's a decent tour, man.
It's a chunky tour.
It's a lot of shows.
It's a month long.
Covering a lot of ground.
Yeah. I think it's like, if I were to guess, it's a big U shape, right? That's like a,
yeah,
kind of like a east,
south,
west.
Usually Chicago's about the only place anybody comes close to where I am. I'm in the northern part of Indiana.
Okay. Yeah.
So Chicago's just a couple hours away. Indianapolis is a couple hours away. Cleveland or Columbus, Ohio is about 4 hours away.
Okay.
So it's just a little town, and everything's a couple hours away.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I've noticed about something being 4 hours away in the US versus something being 4 hours away in Canada is there is way more to see in the US between these 4 hour places.
Yeah.
Whereas you're driving in Canada, it's like you will see just long periods of just trees and like farms and like greenery, which is nice, but you know, it gets boring pretty quick.
Yeah.
You drive in the US from state to state and you see fires.
Which California way, yeah.
which we've seen before. I remember we were driving one of our tour blogs from 2020. We went on tour right before pandemic, and I think the video starts off with like a giant fire on the highway that we filmed. We were driving by, we're like, oh, look at that. So we're doing that. That's starting April 4th, going to May 4th, and we're going with the band called Unprocessed. And I'm not sure if you've heard of them before, but
that sounds familiar, actually. I think I have heard of them.
I fell in love with them. I first heard of them during pandemic when they released one of their newer, I guess at that time, a new song called Real, I think it was.
I know, I liked them a lot too. Like, I haven't thought about them since then, which makes me mad. But
I haven't heard of them beforehand, but like when Real, I think the song's called Real, R-E-A-L. When that dropped, I was like, sign me up, I'm in. And since then, I've just been a fan, listened to like all the stuff that had been released since then. And when we got this tour offer, I was like, oh my gosh, like, yes. I think the guitarist's name is Manuel, and he's like superb, very, very
okay,
fingerific.
yeah. Okay. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's definitely something I know. When I heard it, I was like, what?
Yeah. So this tour is happening to support their latest album. So I'm super excited.
That's great, man.
Yeah. It's like double the amount of excitement when you know who you're going to be with. Yeah. And you're actually familiar with their stuff, and you're like, oh shit, like it's pretty cool. It's nice.
So have you ever been stuck on a tour with a band you just didn't like?
Thankfully, all the people. No, I don't think we've been on a tour with people we didn't like.
That's great.
Maybe like a member or two from the band that were like a little off from the rest of the package.
Sure.
But as a whole, like they're bandmates. At least the people that we've been with have generally been really good people.
That's cool.
Because I think we're all on the same understanding too. It's just like we're all in this together to make some music, make people happy, make some money along the way, and just enjoy the ride. It's like there's no point, there's no reason to like let your ego kind of take control of a situation or something like that.
Yeah.
Which happens, but whatever.
I forget sometimes how it's a small, like the music I listen to in my head, these bands are they're awesome, they're huge, they're monsters, and then it's like, well, they're a little part of a little part.
Right.
Of a subgenre of music,
Right.
And if you're within that realm, it's like you can't really be a diva when
Exactly.
There's a few bands that kind of break out and click with a lot of people, but I like, especially when I went to Japan, I was like, I'm going to see Asterism and Sai Sega, and these bands are great, and I went and saw them. There's like 75 people there. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It should be packed, but that's like a normal. There's so many clubs and so many bands, it's like a normal thing. I'm like, okay, right on.
But those 75 people are like, you'll know that they're like diehards. They'll be at every single show of theirs too, which is like insane.
Yeah.
If you make it, like if you get a following in Japan, it's like they're with you for life kind of thing, and I really admire that. I have a few friends in Japan. One of them's in a band, or one of them is a band called Umbrella, and they're more like a VK-ish kind of, somber sounding kind of rock. And at the time that we met them, I think they were starting to break out. They had like a few, smaller albums here and there, and they even tell us, they're like, we're really small band, like it's okay, like, they've invited me to the shows in Japan. I've went, and they're like, they tell me ahead of time, it's like, we're just chill people. But the people that are there, they're like crazy, like they are so obsessed with the band kind of thing, and just like it's insane. And I think I went to like, in that time that I was there, I think I went to like 2 of their shows, and like almost the exact same crowd was there. But but it's so cool to know that you get that like that devotion, that like fidelity from certain people.
It's like they can survive on a smaller fan base with a dedicated fan base. But no, it's gonna be really fun, this tour with Unprocessed. It's just every night just dancing, sexy dancing to their music. And we're going to be playing our new song Parasite as well on that tour, which is going to be really fun. It's going to be a little stressful because it's like, whenever you go on tour and you decide to play a new song, you just never know how it's going to translate live, and you don't know how it's going to be like put together. So for something like that, how many times have you guys played it together as a band? Like I know you've played your parts several times, you've recorded your parts, you've been in the studio, but have you, I imagine getting ready for the tour you have, but like.
So Parasite, because that's the new one, the amount of times that we've played it together is 0.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
We've played it 0 times together. For many reasons. One, our singer's in the US. And actually for this tour, our main guitarist, Chris, is not able to make it because he's got a little like health issues going on. Oh. So he's unable to like do strenuous like physical stuff. That being said, we have our friend filling in, Gerard, who's just an amazing, like, he's a sweetheart. I love him to death. He's gonna be filling in. He's great at like learning the parts really quickly. I have no worries about once we're all meeting up, because we're meeting up I think for like half of a week before the tour starts.
Yeah.
And in that time, we're just gonna session it like crazy and just go for it. We're doing 2 new songs actually on the tour. So we're doing Parasite, and then we're doing another song which will be released.
When's your album coming out?
May 24th is our next album, and it starts off as soon as you hit play. It starts off with Parasite, so it's gonna be
nice.
Yeah.
So you think another tour to support that after this one?
It's very possible. I think it really just depends on like logistically, I guess, what makes sense for all of us. At least for me, what's most important is like getting the album out into like to the ears of people that have wanted to listen to it or are waiting for something, or you know, maybe people that might need it. Because you never know, like a song can really change someone's life. So
for sure, man.
So when are we going to hear some Ryan Mear stuff?
It's out there. It's on Spotify.
If I type in your name, does it show up, or does it have to be?
Yeah, it'll come up. I have an album EP on there. What's on there? It's called A Small Place in a Big World, and that was pretty much music I had written for my family. Like, because I did, like, I had songs and I put them together for a CD for my family for Christmas because they liked it. Okay. I wanted to do another one, and I ended up learning quite a bit about recording and stuff. And so as I was doing it, I'm like, wow, this is actually pretty decent, you know, as opposed to my previous one, which is like a mic into an adapter into the jack in the front of the computer, you know. And it sounded pretty decent. So I tried to make it a cohesive recording, and there's some old stuff of mine that are kind of funky. Then there's kind of Americana stuff. There's like a country song on there, and I don't know. It's just more kind of solo acoustic stuff that I worked up for a whole band treatment. I played all the drums on it, all the bass guitar and vocals. A lot of editing for the drums to get it. Like the first song I did, I'm like, all right, I played through it, and I'm like, oh my god, this is difficult. By the last one, I'm like, I only had like, I don't know, 5 or 6 edits in the last song I did.
Oh yeah, that's good.
I got better.
It's great.
But that's a trip, dude. Like when you play along with stuff, you know, that's one thing. And you think, well, I can play my own song. They're my songs, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, apparently when I wrote this song, I sped up tempo from the intro to the rhythm of the guitar, and then you realize you put it to a click, and all of a sudden I can't play the guitar part to it.
Right.
Oh my god, it was so disappointing on some songs. I'm like, I got to change the whole feel of this, you know. Or I realized that whenever I would try and do a fill, even a simple fill, I sped up. I didn't know I was doing it, you know. I was like, man, this is difficult. Yeah. Good learning experience, though.
Yeah.
So that stuff is more, I don't know, general kind of rock stuff. I got a couple new instrumentals on there that are pretty heavy. I got a couple more I'm writing. There's one, man, I really have an idea for a video that I would like to have I need to make some connections with some kind of like simple animation to get some graphics going, because I have like a story in my head. It'd be instrumental, but I know what I want to see.
Right.
So I draw too. I need to just quit being lazy and just draw the fucking thing up. And like a lot of like Otto and a lot of Japanese videos are made where it has like a still, but part of it kind of moves. Like you tell it's a still image, you know. And I need to learn about how to do that. And I can
like a visualizer kind of thing.
Yeah. Just need to do that to my own. And
nice.
It's weird because it was like blues, and then I joined a country band for a while, and like I wrote one just so I'd have one of my songs that we could play, you know. And I ended up really liking the song, and so it was like blues, and then that, and now I'm like just wanting to write like metalcore shit, which I cannot play the drums for. So, you know, Easy Drummer is my friend.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. That's gonna be some fun stuff. You have to keep me updated on all the new stuff. Sure, and I'm gonna listen to this. I'm gonna listen to this previous album too. I've got some solo stuff on the way too, which is gonna be really exciting. Yeah. So, what I have currently is already on Spotify, and it's just like really, really old. I wrote it like post high school, acoustic, you know, like melancholy, sad boy, just broke up songs.
Yeah.
And I think for a while they had just sat on my computer. They were always on like, I think SoundCloud or whatever those older platforms of music sharing were, like MySpace and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to toss it on Spotify just to say that it's just just to put it out there,
Right.
instead of just having it sit on my computer. And I would keep listening to it, and I'm like, I hate this. Like, I hate the way I sound. I hate how I'm like, I sound like I'm still trying to find my voice, or like I'm still going through puberty or something. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to write new stuff. And I ended up writing, I have these songs with me. I'm just trying to figure out like the marketing, like the music videos and all that stuff. But this next stuff is going to be like, it's a big mixture. I got like one rock song going on. I have like a dance song. I have a rap song, which is going to be really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all recorded and it's all set and done now. I'm just kind of doing music videos for it. But then at the moment, I just kind of put my focus on all the like new RHD stuff that's happening.
Right. Yeah.
So, which is not an issue because it still keeps me like creative and just practicing in its own respect.
It's great though, man.
Yeah.
It's neat when you can do whatever you want, but it's also like, oh, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Do I want to do a whatever? Because like, I don't know about you. I always found it frustrating when I'd hear a new song from a band. Like this song's freaking great, and I go and get the album. It's like nothing else sounds like this. What the fuck? Like, so you want to make an album like that, or do you want to make a cohesive album? I'm more of like an all over the place thing, where like, here's what I feel like now, and here's what I felt like the day before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think with my new solo stuff, it was really like I had a realization. It was like, yeah, sure, my old like album sounds like this was just, what is it, like 7 or 8 tracks of just acoustic. But I'm like, yeah, but I enjoyed this song as well. I enjoy this genre. So why don't I just try it? And so I kind of packaged it in a way where it's just like, this is me throwing everything against the wall and just seeing what sticks. And it was so much fun because you have to like rewire your brain to be like, okay, how do I write this rap song? Or like, okay, how do I do this like piano ballad kind of thing?
Wow.
Because it's also structurally different too.
My stuff was kind of when I started playing it and singing in front of people, it was at like acoustic open jams, open mics, and I had never sang in front of anybody. Then when I did, the reception was pretty good. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I all my writing was geared towards solo acoustic. So when I went to do like a band format, I'm like, oh, well, I can't. What the fuck is a bass gonna do? What I mean? Like, it was neat to kind of figure that stuff out. And so a lot of songs changed quite a bit. They went from a strummy song to like having like a snappy bass line and just the whole like all of a sudden had groove. I'm like, oh, this is kind of neat, man. Taking it from one aspect to another. So you almost have like 2 completely different songs that are the same song.
Yeah, and I love that. I love knowing that a song can take such a different form when it's at like a different stage of its production. It's like, it's so crazy.
And then don't do too much.
Yeah, you don't want to like suffocate the song with just a bunch of like stuff in it. Like still keep it like, understandable at least.
Yeah, how do you know when you're done? When I stop recording.
Yeah. It's done when I say it's done. Yeah, it's gonna be really fun. I'm excited for the solo music. I'm excited for the album as well.
That's cool. You ever debut any of your solo stuff on your Twitch channel or anything like that?
I have played, yes. I've played long snippets of the songs on my stream before.
Cool.
Because I was just so excited because I'm like, yeah, the song's finally done. You guys want to hear it? I'm just like, play it for a little bit. And then I think at some points I would just like even just drum on top of it just for fun.
I found for me, with what I was listening to, my music was nothing like the music I wrote was nothing like what I listened to. Like I said, it's like Faith No More, Beastie Boys, Alice in Chains. That's pretty much what I listened to, and I didn't write anything like any of that.
Right.
And so then I was most of what people knew me for was like Japanese, like J-rock and stuff. Oh, you got music too? What's it like? Well, it's like Americana. I don't fucking know. Here it is if you want to listen to it. Like, it's completely nothing like what everybody listens to. So it's just kind of this weird, check it out if you want.
Yeah. But it's always such a nice curveball too, because it shows that you're like, it shows that you're able to like diversify, and it shows that you're not just stuck to one genre in one realm in like every aspect of your life, right? I love that. I always love that. I love when like there are artists out there that just they're branded as one certain thing, but then they do something else just because they are interested in it or they want to try it, or and it just works still, and you're like, that's some good stuff.
Yeah. You read any books? I know you like to write. What have you been reading lately?
Oh,
anything? Man. It takes time.
I'm really bad at reading. I mean, like trying to find a book that I could just really. So, literally, the only book that I have been reading is called. It's an MCU book because I'm a big Marvel fan, and specifically the MCU, like the movies.
Yeah.
And so this book is called. What is this MCU book called? But basically, what it is, it's like the history of Marvel, but the behind the scenes stuff in terms of like why was this person casted, how did this contract work out, like the transitions between this and this, and like all those like behind the scenes businessy type of stuff.
That's got to be so interesting.
It's like, a really cool.
It's got to make you wonder like how movies even get made sometimes with all the bullshit that goes on and to get made.
A lot of the book also talks about like how like studio involvement and how that changes, and like a lot of fights between like directors and actors and stuff like that.
So who's writing this book? Is it somebody?
I think if I remember correctly, it's 3 journalists that interviewed just everyone that was involved.
Wow, that's gotta be so. Wow.
Yeah, so like from people from like the composers to the makeup artists to like stunt actors, some of the actors themselves, like stuff like that. The book is called MCU: The Reign of Marvel Studios, or The Rise of Marvel Studios.
So I wonder if there's like juicy like details about stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so I wonder if this was
it's full of that type of stuff.
So they did enough little small interviews where they're like, yeah, you can talk to him. Yeah, you can talk to him. But then you have like 100 people that were like, talk to.
Yeah.
Collectively put the pieces together. You're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like you'll get this side, you'll get this bit of information, and then later you get this, and then you're like, wait a minute, those were connected.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be so interesting.
I love it. Aside from that, I really haven't been reading much. It's like I try to read when I'm at home. I'm playing drums or I'm playing video games, and when I'm out and about is when I read. But I find that when I am out and about, there isn't a lot of time where I'm able to read.
There's some I look at like I want to read that series again. It's like if I do that, that's going to take forever.
It's a big commitment. Yeah.
And I already read it once.
With Stephen King, I really like his like short stories collections, like Skeleton Crew. 4
Past Midnight.
Yeah. Graveyard Shift, Night Shift.
Yeah.
These names. Yeah, those are so good because it's just like a lot of them are lengthy enough to like hold you and not, like you don't get bored or there's no boring moments, and then you kind of like it starts the next story and you're like, whoa, this whole new world, and it's so cool. I love reading like horror or scary type of things.
Probably the first like novel I read of my own free will was Stephen King's like The Dark Half, which is a crazy one to start with. It's a pretty fucking crazy book. And I was reading it like I think it's my senior year I started reading it. So that his style, man, I was just hooked. And I've tried to read other authors. I'm like, no. If he wrote more like King, I'd like it. I don't know if I started with somebody else, if that would just be how like I'd prefer that or whatever. But
right, because you're like used to that one thing.
Right, and I think this S.A. Cosby is probably the first guy since then where I'm like, I like how this guy writes, and I wasn't wanting something else.
Right.
And John Reeves, who's recently joined up with the Gaijin guys, suggested Infected by Scott Sigler, so I'm checking that out now.
Ooh, okay.
So I don't know.
Nice.
He said it's good so far. You know what the crazy thing is now, though? he suggested it to me on Twitter because I said I was reading this S.A. Cosby book. He's like, let me suggest a book, read this one. I'm like, cool, check it out. And then the author gets on there. He's like, yeah, let me know what you think. I'm like, whoa.
Oh, pressure's on now.
This world is crazy now where you can connect with musicians that you like, you connect with authors and stuff.
It's crazy. Like,
you never would have been able to do that before.
Like, I think with the growth, even with like recent pandemic times, variation of internet, it's like the world has gotten so much bigger but also smaller at the same time. It's like you get information on the spot, and it makes the world seem larger, but because it's more accessible, it's like it's closer and smaller.
Right.
It's crazy.
It's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah.
Did you ever read comics?
I do.
Okay.
Do and did. Yeah.
You're also an MCU guy for comics too?
I read, so for the comics, the Marvel comics, I just kind of limit myself to reading like the main events or like the crossover events rather than like each tiny small issue.
Yeah, it's about impossible now.
Yeah, there's so much going on, and comparing and contrasting between like the comics and the movies, there's like 1,000 more characters happening or like showing up in the comic than it is in the movies, and it's so hard to keep track sometimes.
The movies are great, man. Like I've been a DC fan as far as comic goes.
Yeah.
So when the Marvel stuff started happening, I'm like, freaking Iron Man. Like I was like, really? But dude, it was so good, and they really did. That's something that we'll probably never see again.
Yeah.
Or it won't happen for many years. That big.
Yeah. Here's the thing, like DC absolutely kills it in all things animation. So like the animated movies, the shows, and the comics as well. Anything that's animated. Marvel, they do a great job with the animated stuff, but they really shine when it comes to like the live action movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've really focused on that, and it really shows. Like I've watched a lot of like the Marvel related cartoons, and it's like, they're really hit or miss.
Yeah.
Like you have your 90s era X-Men and Spider-Man, which is awesome, but then you go to like the more recent ones, and it's like they've really aimed for like a much younger demographic.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas DC is like, no, screw it, we're gonna keep doing us kind of thing. Yeah,
they went all in. I was so disappointed when they did Justice League and all that stuff. It's like, God, you have your own thing going, just stick with it. You know, they're trying to chase what Marvel's doing. It's like, no, you can't do that. But, so the whole thing they kicked off just kind of went away.
And like the recasting and the recasting and the recasting.
Yeah. Dude.
Well, James Gunn is heading it now, so maybe there will be more like cohesive stuff. Maybe. Possibly. Who knows? I mean, I thought he did a great job with Guardians. Like, I think so. And I actually really enjoyed the Suicide Squad, like that was good, man. Yeah, that was great. That was great. I like that too. And that's like that's watching that, and like you could tell that's like a James Gunn movie. So sure, it's so weird. They had Suicide Squad, then they put out the Suicide Squad. It's just weird. It's just a weird time for for DC. The whole Justice League, and then Zack Snyder's Justice League. Yeah. So why are you gonna pay, dude, to make this epic thing, and then be like, all right, we're done with you? Like, he just proved that he could do it. Yeah, right. It was a really weird situation with the Justice League, but but the fans spoke up, and we got the goods. Yeah, which is awesome. Yeah. Cool. Well, shoot, man. Pretty good. Nice chat. Covering all the grounds. Oh yeah, I had a feeling we'd end up doing that. I guess it really wasn't much of a structure. We kind of just went in. We're like, let's just talk and see what happens. And I consciously was like, okay, I need to get my questions laid out. I'm like, nah, I didn't really want to. Yeah. I don't know. I just like having a conversation. Yeah, honestly, like sometimes I think discussions are way more fun than just straight up questions and answers kind of thing. And like, I've been in those where it's like, it's cool, but then it's just like, there's no like connection. There's no So this is fun. I enjoy this too. This is cool.
Hey, editor Ryan here. Tyson and I went on to talk about music and songwriting for probably another 20 minutes. It was really cool, and I'll put that in another video. All his links will be in the description below. And do yourself a favor and check out Red Handed Denial. It's a great band, and I can't wait to see if they do on tour. Have a great day.